What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. As you can see here, we have the rabbit behind me, but before we get into the topic of this video, I want to briefly go over a couple of things. For one, I know I haven't uploaded in about 2 or 3 weeks, so I apologize for that. I have other things going on, and since YouTube doesn't pay me, I got to prioritize work, school, and things like that. So I oftentimes don't get the time to upload on here, and that's why the last couple of weeks I haven't really had time. The second thing is, as you guys can see here, if you've seen some pictures, you may have noticed this, but the lips on the RAs are actually polished. Huge thanks to my buddies Hunter, Anthony, and Wesley for giving me a hand in polishing these wheels. We got them looking a little bit more shiny than they used to as far as the lips go. I don't want the faces polished, but we got the lips polished. They're not 100% done, but very close. And I am a big fan of that, I'm not gonna lie. So huge thanks to those guys for their help in getting this done, because it would have taken me way more time if I would have been doing it on my own. So that looks really nice. But other than that, just been sorting some things out with this truck, with the motor swap, and dealing with some problems that have come up. There is a larger problem, but we'll go over that in another video. It is running and driving, and it runs quite well. Now that brings us into the topic of this video. So, as you guys know, I built this truck last year. It took me a while, and it was the first large project that I did, and a lot of things that I did admittedly are not exactly 100% correct, and maybe not the way that I really want them to be overall. One of those things is the exhaust system on this truck. So basically, sometimes you gotta know what you don't know, and in this case, I am not a master fabricator and I am not an outstanding welder. I can get by, but I cannot make perfect stuff, and that's why the exhaust system on this truck is not exactly perfect. It comes out the side, as you guys have probably seen before in the videos. I believe I showed it in the video when I did an overview of this truck, but I built an exhaust system, and admittedly, it is not right at all. I do own a TIG welder, but that just because you own something doesn't mean you know how to use it, and I have not put the time in or had the patience to put the time in as of recently. So that leads us to what I have here, and that is a full 2.5-inch Techtonics exhaust system. So in this box we have the whole system, and then we also have in this box a 2.5-inch stainless downpipe, and we also have the connection piece so that we can run that stainless downpipe with the 2.5-inch system. So Techtonics makes really great stuff, and I'm really excited to have those parts on this truck. A lot of people run those exhaust systems, and I'm just going to add to that list. So we're going to be installing that in this video, and I'm really excited to do that. It's going to make this truck a lot better, and, you know, I'm never going to make fun of anyone for things they don't know. Everyone starts somewhere, and I started years ago. I have learned a lot, and admittedly, I am a little bit further ahead than a lot of people my age in this industry and doing things like this. However, there are still things that I didn't know. Trying to slap this exhaust system on and thinking, oh, I'm going to save all this money. Well, you know, you get what you pay for, and the exhaust system that I built for it is just not good enough and not really what I want. So I'm really excited to be having this quality system on it, and I tried to be cheap. I learned that you can't do that, and this project has taught me that time and time again as I put miles on it and learned that the cheap route, while sometimes it's okay, is not always the answer. So before we get started on the install of the new system, I want to give you guys some sound clips of what this thing sounds like as of right now with the system that's on it currently. So first off, I'll give you guys a cold start of it right here. And now I'm going to give you guys a revs of it standing still right here. And then finally, give you guys a flyby. And thanks to my buddy Anthony for filming this, because I can't film the outside and drive at the same time. So I'll put that clip in right here. And as you guys can see, it doesn't sound bad. Actually, the flyby clip was of it with the old motor in it, which they sound pretty much the exact same. But the flyby was with the old motor. Either way, it's really loud. It's not exactly, you know, the tone is pretty good, but it's definitely quite loud, and that's because it is primarily just a straight pipe, so there's not really, it does have a resonator in there, but there's not a whole lot between the turbocharger and the exhaust tip. So this new system, I'm hoping, is going to make a pretty big difference on this thing. But now I'm going to go ahead and pull this thing out and flip it around. tell you what, no power steering when you're trying to turn around in a driveway, not so fun. But all right, we got this in here, so we're going to go ahead and jack this up. I'm not quite sure how I want to do it because I've got to get the old exhaust out first, and then we're going to have to get the new one in. So I'm probably going to put the thing up on all four corners, and then that's going to make it the easiest for A, you guys to see, and B, to get this done. So I'm going to go ahead and jack this up here, and then we'll go ahead and go on with the installation of this. I'm very excited to get this exhaust off because let me tell you, the exhaust fumes inside this thing, when you go for a drive and you want to just go out and enjoy the vehicle, and then you end up with a headache when you're trying to drive, and on your way back home, you wish you had just left the thing at home because of the exhaust fumes. Yeah, it definitely is going to be worthwhile to have the exhaust exit not right underneath there because, you know, the window and the cab and the leak, yeah, it's, you know, just not ideal. So this new system is going to be really great for that alone, just not having a bunch of exhaust leaks. All right, so before we get started with actually doing any work on this thing and pulling things off, putting things on, go ahead and show you guys this system. So first off, I'm gonna pull out the downpipe. So right here, this is the 2.5-inch downpipe that we've got. So, you know, welds obviously very nice overall, and we got a little bracket here, so we'll be able to do that. And the triangle 3-bolt flange, which there's an adapter to take this 3-bolt flange and put it onto the system, because with using this you have obviously the triangle flange, and that's just a circular pipe. So I'll show you guys that adapter pipe in there, but this is the downpipe and the O2 bung right here. Now also in this we got the hardware for that and the gaskets, and as well as 2 stickers. So that's cool. We always love stickers. Now in this larger box here, we have the actual system itself. So it's a bit tricky to get out of here, but I had it out before. I did not exactly put it in the right way, but here we have first piece of it. So, you know, all bent quite nice. Pull this off here. This is going to be the part that I believe comes out the back. I'm not 100% sure, but I have this here. And then right here, got muffler. So went with the MagnaFlow. There are a couple of different options. I believe you can either get Borla or MagnaFlow. I got the MagnaFlow option. So open this up here. We get MagnaFlow muffler. You know, I bought all these stickers and it came with an exhaust system. It's crazy. And then we also have right here, this is going to be the mid pipe with this bend here that is a bit difficult to make if you're trying to make it yourself. So that right there. And then down at the bottom here, dump out onto the chair, we have this connection piece right here. So right here, like I said, with the 3-bolt flange, you know, right there, and obviously very nice welds on here. So we have this, and then this piece connects to the downpipe, just like that, and then that will connect to the exhaust system. So this downpipe is actually stainless, and then the rest of it is not stainless, because the stainless option is quite expensive. As you guys know, stainless is typically the more expensive option, and this thing I typically try to refrain from driving in the rain anyway, so I'm not that concerned about it because, like I said, I mainly only drive it when the weather's nice anyhow, so not going to be too much of an issue. And then in here we have more stickers, and we have all of the hanger rubber grommets that we need. And then finally in this box, or in this bag, sorry, we have all of the clamps and hanger clamps and all the things that we're going to need to put the system on here. So we got all the rest of the packaging off and gave you guys a little video of this system. Definitely a very, very nice system. Very happy with it and very happy with the quality of it. Definitely a good buy. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed on here. So first thing to do is going to be obviously to remove this exhaust, and I'll get under here and give you guys a look at this atrocity of an exhaust and why this is very much needed. All right, so number one with the side exit, obviously I'm not a huge fan of that, but it was the easiest way to get an exhaust in this thing, so that's why that is there. And then, you know, the heat wrap obviously got a little damaged. Got the hanger here, so the thing is somewhat solid, but single resonator right there. Shell of a catalytic converter. There was actually a catalytic converter in there when I put it on, but it exploded from the backfiring from the last motor, which is a whole nother story. But so there's just a catalytic converter there, and then the resonator, no muffler, and then just bend right here and right out to there. So this new system is going to look a lot better. I also did build the downpipe. I'll give you guys a look at that once we remove it. And, you know, it's not perfect. You know, it worked. It did what it needed to do. It didn't break. It didn't have any issues. So I'm happy with that. However, it did not look as nice as this new downpipe that we're going to have. So I'm really excited to be putting that on. So we're going to go ahead and get this old pile ripped out and get the shiny new in. So here's the pipe with it out of the truck. So, you know, as you can see, there's a combination of brackets holding this on because obviously it didn't have any of the right ones. So either way, it served me somewhat well. It worked. It covered thousands of miles. So, you know, that's good. But obviously you can see where it was rubbing on the ground a lot. So I'm honestly surprised you didn't really rub a hole through it, but it was definitely scraping quite a lot. And overall, just not ideal. And, you know, when you take a look at this, or take a look at that, I mean, you tell me, but I'm definitely taking that over that. So now, next thing we got to do is have to go under here and pull off the flange off of the turbocharger so that we can get the whole downpipe and cat out. That is the next thing. You guys are really not going to be able to see that at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that underneath the truck because, you know, again, you guys can't see it, so no point really showing you, but just 4 bolts. So we're going to take the 4 bolts off the turbocharger, then that whole assembly will come down. Also, we're going to have to unplug the O2 sensor. Otherwise, very, very simple. So got the downpipe out, and right here it is. Now, I must say, I'm not embarrassed to say that I built this. So, you know, it's not perfect, but I did build this entirely from scratch. So worked out really well and actually did fit. This was probably the best part of the whole entire system. Obviously, the heat wrap, the black, mostly came off of that, but built this, and in taking a look at the resemblance from the Techtonics one, I did a pretty good job of matching it up, so I am kind of proud of that. Either way, this downpipe is not great, and let me show you the biggest reason as to why. As you can see down in through there, the welds on it are not that great. My pie cuts, you know, my skills within that front are not exactly the greatest. So as I mentioned before, I'm not a master welder, but I can get by. And this is just one of those instances where it got by, it worked well, but the time has come to upgrade to something much nicer and much better for this vehicle. So now that we have this whole entire system out, I'm gonna knock this O2 off of this one here. So just gotta pull that off. And then after that, we are going to be ready to start installing our new system. When you're pulling out the O2, it's real nice to have one of these tools here because it just slides right over the O2 wire. Up here is easier. Just like that. And then all you got to do, take a hammer, and then should just turn loose like that. And then you're able to just turn it right out. You can do it other ways, but, you know, this is the easiest way. So got that out. So now at this point, this we're not going to be needing any longer. I am going to hold on to it because if I ever do build another 1.8 Turbo Mark 1 before I get another Techtonics system for that vehicle, I'm going to hold on to this just in case I need it because it'll get the thing down the road just like this one did. All right, so in preparation to put this on, we're going to put the downpipe together first with the connection pipe. So in the kit with the connection pipe, it has a flange, gasket for the flange and it also has the 3 bolts. Now, this end is a 12 millimeter. This is a 13, and honestly, that's really nice for me because oftentimes when you're tightening stuff, you may only have one of each size, or even if you're ending up in a bad situation and you only have one set of tools along, it could be really helpful to be able to just connect the flange up with the tools that you have rather than needing 2 13 millimeters, 2 12 meters, whatever it is. So go ahead and thread these in by hand. Shouldn't matter which way put it on because just bolts. So you can face the nut towards the back or towards the front. But we're going to put it facing the nut towards the rear just because, I don't know, that's how I felt like doing it. So hand thread these bolts in here. So that's the final one right here. And then we'll go ahead, take this, tighten, right like that. And final one right here. And there we go. So now we've got 3 bolt flange all connected up, looking good. So now there's our complete downpipe with the connection pipe. So now we're going to go ahead and take this whole entire downpipe, install that into the truck, and then we are going to go ahead and put the rest of the exhaust system on. But putting this one first is going to be the easiest. We also don't want to forget to install O2 sensor in here. So I'm going to go ahead and thread this in here and not cross thread it. No, I'm trying my best to here. Oh, all right. So there we go. Now we'll just take this, turn this by hand. So you can't anymore. Might take a little bit. So now go ahead and grab a hammer. Just like that. There we go. O2 sensor all hooked up. So now downpipe is really ready to go into here. Give you guys a little bit of a look here of what we're up to. But basically, as I mentioned, there's not really a good place for me to set you guys to be able to see. But currently putting in the new gasket right there and the downpipe. So just working on getting those 4 studs back in. Now, Techtonics does actually give you these little nuts right in the tray that go onto the studs. However, this turbocharger that I just got with this new motor has all the studs connected to the nuts for whatever reason. So that's what we're using. So we're not going to be able to use those. However, it is nice that they give you those because oftentimes they'll either tend to a break or strip or something will happen because they get really rusty. And being in this area, we see a lot of rust. So that's that. But I'm going to go ahead and continue on with installing this. And once this is done, I'll give you guys a good look. All right, so got it all installed. It's a little hard to see up here, but you can see that stainless on the camera. And then if we go underneath the truck here, get a good look at it, but definitely very pretty. That stainless looked real nice. Fits quite well. You can see right there, we got plenty of clearance on the steering rack. Now, I did hack a bracket off of that when I built mine. However, plenty of clearance on there. Pipe all connected up. Now, there is this tab here, and I vaguely remember there being a bracket on there or something of that sort. So I'm going to have to look into that further, but for time's sake, I don't have that right now. So we're just going to leave that bracket off for the moment. It shouldn't be an issue. But at this point, downpipe is fully installed. I got all the bolts on, got the O2 hooked back up, so that's all ready to go. But definitely very nice piece. All right, so next piece we have to install here is going to be the mid pipe that connects the downpipe to the rear portion of the exhaust. So right here is just that, and then we have a regular clamp here because I have a O2J transmission in this car, if you didn't know, and that requires you to have the O2J shift box. And because of that, it kind of gets in the way of some of these things, and some of the brackets that may have been there from the factory are no longer able to be fit. However, I do plan on getting this shift box mounted inside of the vehicle, so it is not going to be under here anymore. So this exhaust is going to fit even better when I do end up doing that, but I'm not quite sure how I want to go about doing that yet. So as of right now, it is just staying the way that it is. So because of that, we're just using the regular clamp, but they give you, Techtonics does, a lot of different clamps. Wanted to mention that Techtonics does include this with the exhaust, so you do get this picture of the exhaust and then the clamps with color-coded dots on them, and these color-coded dots match up to each of the clamps, so you know where the clamp is supposed to be roundabout on the exhaust. So then you can match that up and know that you're putting it together the right way. So that is super helpful, so that you have what you need to fully mount this exhaust up properly and get it the way that you need it to be. But so we're gonna go ahead and fit this here. All right, so I've gone ahead and set a jack stand up to hold this, and now you can get a better look at this mid-pipe connection right here. But you'll see what I'm talking about as far as the O2J shift box, the proximity of it. It's pretty close. So that's, you know, kind of an issue, but that's entirely my fault. There's no problem with the exhaust system. Obviously, that is just because I have this box and the way that I have it mounted. So that is what it is. But like I said, I'm going to be mounting that box inside of the truck very soon, so I'm not really all that worried about it. Now, rest of it comes up to the bend right here. Very nice. And then get up here, and I have put in the MagnaFlow muffler. So far, I didn't get a clamp on it yet. It's just sitting in there. So we have to put a clamp on right there, and then that will connect to those two hangers with the rubber grommets right there, which will then have our muffler installed. So gonna go ahead and get that clamp hooked up, and then we're finally going to be putting on the tailpipe. All right, so first off, got to go ahead and put these rubber grommets on. So if you guys can see up here, just go ahead and push that in just like that, and that hangs on right there. And then the other side is up here, and this one might be a little bit more tricky to see, but all right, so that was hard to do with two hands, and one hand with the camera was not going to happen. But I ended up getting these rubber ones on and getting the whole entire clamp on that holds the muffler to the mid pipe here. So that definitely worked out really well. This was bent quite a bit on the body of the truck, but this thing, needless to say, as with most trucks at this point, has definitely been around, so not surprising things get bent. But we've got our new muffler underneath here right there, looking very nice. Got it sitting straight, and then right here I've got this gap where we want it to be between the body and the exhaust. The bend is, you know, nicely fit in there, and then I was able to tweak this enough that it's not going to actually hit my shift box at the moment. Now it's not right, and I'm not surprised that it doesn't fit 100% right around this area because of that shift box. It is kind of in the way of where this thing wants to be, so that's kind of an issue, and we're gonna have to solve it later on. But that is, again, a truck problem, not an exhaust problem. But as of right now, you know, we got our nice downpipe going to the connection pipe here, and then mid pipe right there coming back to right there, connected in to the muffler. And now at this point, we're going to connect our tailpipe to right here and mount that up, and then that's going to be it for the exhaust install. All right, so the final piece that we have to install is the tailpipe right here. So over here, now this goes up over the top of the axle, connects into the muffler. So go ahead and do just that. Bring that right to there. Again, it's going to be very difficult for me to do all this with you guys being able to see these rubber clamps, so I'm going to go ahead and get all these clamps put on, but that's going to be relatively the look of where this is going to be. Now we got to tweak some things a little bit, get this thing sitting a little bit more proper, but that's around about how that's going to sit. And then after we're done with those clamps, that is going to be it, and we'll finally get to hear how this thing sounds. All right, so we got this all hooked up here, got the clamp hooked up right there, got the muffler clamp back here, and we have the tailpipe fully installed here. Now there is supposed to be another one that connects around this general area, and I am afraid that one of these rust spots is where that bracket used to be. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna double check on some other trucks that we have and see if it has the part that I need, but there's a possibility that this just rotted off, and that's why I don't have the bracket that goes in this general area and connects to hold that. But either way, it's still, I mean, I'm shaking it and it's not really moving too much, so should still be good. But we got this all hooked up here and that's all good. So I'm incredibly happy with how this thing looks. It honestly makes me smile how nice this thing looks, because the exhaust in this truck has been pretty terrible for so long. I'm really excited to have this really nice system on it. All right, so truck's back on the ground and I just cannot stop smiling. I am so happy with the quality of this exhaust and the way that it looks. It is so much better than what I had. Definitely gonna have to get used to this look, because I'm used to seeing the exhaust come out over here and now right there. Much better, but going from this system over here to the new system is just a night and day difference. I'm so happy to have this system on the truck. But now there's only one more thing to do, thing we've all been waiting for. Give this thing its first start and see how much different it sounds. So without further ado, I'm gonna set the tripod up and we're gonna give it its first start. All right, here we go. Oh yeah. It's so much more temperate at idle. The straight pipe drove me insane. You guys would not have really even been able to hear me over it right now, but this, it's a really nice, you can still hear turbo a bit, but real nice and quiet. Really a big fan of that. It is rattling a little bit, I believe. I'm not quite sure. Not surprising at all, given that I do have that shift box problem, so that's to be expected. We'll definitely get that taken care of here soon, but super happy with it overall. I'm excited. Let's take it out and drive it a little bit, but before that, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of revs with it. Alright, so we're currently out on a drive here. Much quieter inside the truck overall, which I really like. It's not blasting your ears out when you're driving. It's just really nice and quiet, and overall very happy with that aspect of it. Definitely feeling a little bit more power from it as well. Not a ton, but definitely do notice that. But the main thing that I'm really a fan of is the fact that it's not so raspy inside the truck and it's really quiet. The other thing that's really nice, I am not currently breathing in a ton of exhaust fumes, so that is super cool. I'm very happy with all that, and overall when you get into it, it's not too bad. Do a little rip here. So, you know, sounds really good. It's a lot less raspy overall, and just generally I'm very happy with this system. It was definitely well worth the money, and Techtonics makes a really good product with this exhaust. All right, so as you guys can see, it is the next day. Now, yesterday, went to go out and test drive, and of course, because we live in Pennsylvania and it seems like all it does around here is rain, it started to rain, proceeded to rain through the entire evening and night, and there was no chance of really getting good sound clips of this thing. I tried, and thanks to my brother anyway for willing to be standing in the rain to videotape me driving by with it, but it was just not very good quality. And, you know, since the whole point of this is to be able to hear the exhaust, it's kind of important that we got a really good audio clip of that. So had to wait till today to get that clip filmed. So I wanted to mention to you guys, if you happen to notice my hat and notice what it says on it, the greatest place on earth, otherwise known as Harbor Freight, you can get these hats at Harbor Freight for $5. So if you're looking for one of these hats, definitely go pick them up. It's very good quality. And I love hats and I love Harbor Freight. So definitely a really cool hat. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed on the wall over here, but did get a new poster kind of that I made. So we had bought out a bunch of parts in New York. And if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen that, but got a bunch of manuals in that. And I picked out some of the cool old ones that have the pictures. So we got the 77 Rabbit, 78 Rabbit, the 79 Rabbit, 82 Rabbit, an 80 Jetta, and an 81 Scirocco. So overall, I just thought this was kind of cool. And, since this is somewhat of a Mark 1 YouTube channel, I figured you guys would probably find that interesting, so I wanted to include that in here. Now, before I show you the clips, I am going to say I'm very happy with it overall. It drives very nice, it sounds really good, and overall the car just pulls a lot harder than it used to before. So definitely feels like through the whole RPM range, it's much more linear power, which I'm really happy with overall. But I'm going to now insert the audio clips of the before and after with this. So we're going to put in cold start, standstill revs, and flybys. And then you guys will really be able to tell with a true side-by-side comparison the difference that the Techtonics exhaust system makes to my half-baked system that I had on it before. So without further ado, going to go ahead and insert those clips, and then you guys will be able to hear what this thing sounds like. So that's going to be a wrap on this video. I did include in the last clips of the flybys, did include my dad's 16 valve swapped Rabbit GTI, because that actually does have a Techtonics system on it as well. So you guys get those extra bonus clips too. That thing sounds really good. But it's honestly a little bit, confusing, surprising, whatever you want to call it, that the two cars sound very similar, even though they both have entirely different engines in them. It's kind of strange that they both sound relatively the same, but I guess that's really the thing with the Techtonics system. Overall, this thing, though, sounds really good. The GTI sounds great, too. But so, include those clips. But overall, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a really good time installing this exhaust system. I'm really happy that it turned out the way that it did, and it made the big difference this truck was really needing for a long time. I put off installing this exhaust, I'm not going to lie, for a little while, just because I wasn't making the time to do it, but really glad that this weekend we made it happen and got it installed. So really happy with that overall, and just generally very happy with the Techtonics product. Definitely, if you're looking for an exhaust system for your Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, whatever you need, they're going to have it. And as you guys saw with the install here and the quality of the stuff, you're definitely going to be getting what you pay for, and definitely well worth it. So there is one final thing I want to include before I wrap this video up. And I'm not exactly too terribly pleased about this, to say the least. However, it's part of it sometimes, so it is what it is. Now, if we go back here, and I do this, and run my hand along the inside of there, there's substance on my hands, and some people may call that substance oil. And that oil also happens to coincide with my dipstick level going down. And also there's some burning oil smell and smoke coming from this thing. So we've got something going on. I'm not quite sure what it is. We're going to figure that out, but I'm going to leave that for the next one. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Peace.